Hello, my American Studies 140 students. This is Dr. Donald Earl Collins. It is week 15. As I noted in announcements, this is the final week of the semester. The main thing I want to talk about are basically what we're doing the remainder of the semester. We will not have class this week. This week was specifically put together so that students could present their work in person. Only one student has made a request to do an in-person presentation. One out of 18 students in the course plus one, right? So for that reason alone, it would basically mean that we would meet for 20 minutes to hear someone do a presentation, maybe 25 max. I'd sum up the course probably in 10 or 15 minutes. You'd have time to do your evaluations in class, and I would be gone. That's not really a reason to come in. A couple of you have offered to do presentations um, basically as a way to expand time, but the truth of the matter is you could just as easily record a presentation, or in one case, you don't even have to do a presentation because if you're doing an analytical essay, there's no reason to. You just would be summarizing what you've already written. And that's kind of not the point, right? So no, I don't see the point of us having an in-class meeting. I actually don't see the point of having a Zoom meeting on this either, because all we would end up talking about really would be what people think of each other's projects, right? And you can do that through providing commentary and feedback. I guess if you really wanted to, you record your feedback as an audio recording or as a video recording, since we're being creative in this course, and give it to that student and provide it for us to listen to or watch. That would be kind of nice if a couple of you did that and said, hey, this is great. I'm so inspired by what I saw that I'm actually going to comment on it using my camera too. That would be kind of nice. But my point is that there's no reason to meet. There's no reason to meet this week. So the main thing you all should focus on is giving each other feedback. All of you are required to give two projects feedback, just commentary, overall feedback on the quality of their work, that you found compelling, what you thought was missing, what could have been better, what you needed to explain, what needed to be explained more, those kinds of things, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing in terms of providing peer feedback. It shouldn't all be, this is great, this is wonderful, everything was interesting, this is great, that kind of stuff that often is said in class, where I have to interpret whether you really understood what you were talking about, whether you are trying to disagree, but you don't know how to disagree, that kind of thing. So, I know for some of you, for a couple of you, the fact that we're not meeting might think, well, you're not really doing your job. All the truth of the matter is, most of you don't seem to really know all that's entailed in my job, one of which is evaluating you in detail. And sometimes that requires having time, especially with so many projects to look at this time around, because so many people did individual projects. It is going to take, in fact, me a little bit more time. And with the short distance between where we are in the course and the end of the semester, I do need that time. But it's also time for you to reflect. And that's one of the things that's due this week, is your final reflection on the course and a reflection on your learning, your not learning, the impact of different things that you did see, did read, etc., over the course of the course, particularly the last part of the course, right? So, spend time on that. That's a good thing to be doing since your projects are in. Everyone's got to give feedback to each other, so that's going to take time. Figuring out what your final reflection is going to be about is going to take time. Me reading, reading peer feedback, reading your reflections, reading and watching and listening to your final projects is going to take a ton of my time. So that's where we are for this week. I don't have any general final comments on the course yet. I will reserve those for next week and for the weeks afterward. But as I've told some of my other classes, over the course of this semester in particular, but this year as a whole, This has probably been the hardest year for me as a professor since I started teaching as a professor. It's probably the hardest it's been for me as a teacher, period, since I first started teaching as a TA at the University of Pittsburgh back in 1992-93. And back then I was 22, 23 years old, and I wasn't much older than the students I was teaching, so I had conflict issues, which would be normal because if you look just like the students who are in front of you age-wise, they might not listen to you, right? But it's been 30 years since then, and I'm having the same problems because folks are disengaged, right? And I'll talk about that more next week. But the truth of the matter is that it makes it harder for me to do my job if my actual job, which is to see if you not make sure that you necessarily agree or disagree with me, but at least you understand what I'm teaching and why it's important to learn this material. And if there's no agreement even on that, then you're not going to get much out of the class, and I'm just going to get frustrated over time, right? And so some of that has happened this semester, but it's not just your class. That's been across the board for me and for a lot of professors at AU and across the world of American university teaching in the middle of a pandemic, where people are increasingly frustrated with the quality of what they're getting. That includes faculty. So, but then again, that's all for in more detail next week and the weeks afterward. So that's really it. I don't have anything else to add. The only thing I want to make sure of is that those of you who wanted to do an in-person presentation, that you have time. You basically have until this Thursday morning, mid-morning Thursday, to get in some pre-recorded presentation format, whether it's video, audio, audio visuals, however you plan on doing your presentation, to get it to me by then so that I can share it with the class and so the class has sufficient time to give commentary on it. Sooner rather than later, but ideally no later than the end of the day, Wednesday, maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Thursday on April 20th/April 21st. That's it. Hope you have a good week. Hope that this helps relieve stress around a little bit around what you're doing this week and around getting ready for your finals and things of that nature for other classes other than this one. So, all right. Bye for now.